So now I'm back where I was a bit earlier. To the left is the place I left the camper, which is about 800 meters down Viale Terrestre. Here we have the Venetian monument, the theatre. To the left is the Piazza dell'Unità d'Italia, the Piazza of Italian Unity. And earlier we walked down that street. Now we're going off to the left of it. This street is called Via Bergamas. It's after this character, Antonio Bergamas, who was born in this house. He was an Italian nationalist. It says here he was full of the ideas of Mazzini, Italian unification. So when World War I started, he defected from here, which was Austria, over to Italy and joined the army on the 18th of June 1916. He was killed. Now, when the war ended, his mother was chosen to represent the mothers who lost their children or their sons during the war, and we can see a film from the 1920s with her. She was shown a number of coffins, and for some reason chose one of them, which she said had her son in it. There was no way of knowing where her son was, but he was killed somewhere on Trento on the South Tyrol, and whereas his grave was marked, it was bombarded afterwards, so there was no way of finding it. And the dog tags, as they had them, were made from cardboard, so it wouldn't last very long. Anyway, his mother chose the coffin in Aquileia, and which then did a train ride through Italy, or down to Rome anyway, and people, you can see in the film, people actually greeting the train as it goes past. Now on the right there's the chapel of John the Baptist, which is 18th century, but its bell, which we can see up there, dates to 1642, and this is the oldest bell in Gradisca. The chapel itself is rather small, and it was restored in 1982. Inside we can see a scene from the Crucifixion, which may come, there's a light is on, and in the Crucifixion scene we can see to the left there's the Last Supper, based on the famous painting, which you can see in Mel Brooks' History of the World. And there to the right we have the Crucifixion, and further to the right we have the tomb where Jesus was allegedly laid to rest, but on the third day, that is to say the Sunday, in fact it's so he was killed on the Friday, and on the Sunday, 2 days later, his body was no longer there, but he did leave his burial cloth. Now, in Jewish religion, you're not put in a coffin, but in a burial cloth, and that cloth allegedly is now in Turin, the Turin shroud. You can see it there. I don't personally believe that that is a burial cloth which dates back 2,000 years. Having said that, I don't really want to go into the subject of that right now. See, so this is just a place for praying. I don't suppose much preaching gets done here. And we see on the wall, under prayer, John Paul II, Karol Wojtyla from Krakow, where I was 8 years ago today. And here we see a dedication to John the Baptist with a coat of arms. And If you're at 120, you can light yourself a candle. Oh, it's a postcard as well. The best time to do anything is in the early morning, in my opinion. I was up before 6. I read a book which somebody gave me. I was reading a book about the battles here from the First World War, and then I left around 7:30, so I've been walking around for a couple of hours now. So behind the chapel we've got a 16th century, so early Habsburg building, which is really part of where the chapel is as well. You see Casa Corona from the 16th, the 18th centuries, and restored in 1982. And on the other side of the road we have a palace, to use the Italian word, house, Stuckenfeld family, which is from the 17th century. And coming down here on the left, and there's a place that sort of interests me, Il Forno Storico, the historic bakery, since 1918. So I'll probably come here and get some bread there tomorrow. On the right, the library, and behind that's the building which is the town hall. That's where the conference was yesterday. And I forgot to mention that next to the town hall there's the Museum of Contemporary Art. Now yesterday they gave us a guided tour around it. Unfortunately, well, it's all over my head. I'm not really into contemporary art. In fact, I just didn't understand the ideas behind it. And someone said I didn't understand, and someone said, well, do you speak English? And I said, I'm sorry, I understand the words, I don't understand the ideas. And here we have the Cathedral of Paul and Peter and Paul. So that dates to the 17th century, so 18th century, I should say. It was founded in 1752. But there was a church here earlier, in San Salvador. Now, all the time I've referred to Gradisca as a town, it's actually a city. It's got city rights that go back hundreds of years. And this is its cathedral. So I'll quick look inside. Now you can see there's plenty of pictures of John Paul II, but none of the popes after him. Either Benedict or Francis. And I think it's a bit small to be a cathedral. Well, it's only a small town. City, I should say, city. But they had to put extra chairs out to accommodate everybody. You don't often see that these days. In front of me, I can see another building built by wealthy people during the Habsburg period, the Casa de Portas, which is in the 17th century. And we have another historic building next to it. And I think that this reflects the importance of Gradisca as a trading location. Its position within the empire, and also its attractive position. It must be seen as an attractive position for people to actually move to, I think, in those days. Milder climate, other side of the Alps. had a lot going for them. Within here, we can see some stones which have inscriptions on them, which dates to, well, the first one is here, 1569. And that one's comparatively recent, 1850, 60, 70, 82. And there's a banner up there for the Gradiscan festival, which was held a few days ago. This building, being 15th century, I suspect is actually one of the oldest buildings, non-military, which are here today. So it's from the Venetian period. That's a lottieri from the 17th century. So if you moved here in those days, this is clearly the street you'd want to live in. Now to the right there is a turret, part of the defences which were built by the Venetians in the 15th century, and it's also a public garden, so I'm going to go up there now and have a look at it. Now, according to Google Maps on my telephone, this street is Butcher's Street, and this was, so I'm led to believe, the Jewish street in Gradisca. There's also a building down here housed the synagogue, and there's also a cemetery somewhere, but I don't know where. And this leads out onto the ramparts. I can go for a walk that way, and there's a kennel which I believe is the municipal home for cats, so I think they get fed in there. Now in Venice, according to rumour, it's actual with drinking fountains that have a space for water for the cats, because the cats would eat the rats, and there's plenty of rats, and they wanted to keep disease away. I'm not certain how much truth there is in that. I'm just here repeating rumour. And if you're particularly small, you can go that way. Came up here the other day on my bicycle and I thought, this looks private, but the sign clearly said public. As it does here. Named after Leo Furlan, who was a botanist. 1928 to 1961. unfortunately he died rather young. This looks closed, it is. And I can see at the back that's closed as well. Now, in here, it looks as though it was once used as a toilet. Indeed, it looks as though traditions continue. In front we have the Casa Toscani from the 18th century. And to the right we have the gate. Now I think that this is probably one of the best known views of Gradisca. It's the gate but from the other side. So we'll walk over the bridge and have a look at it from there. There is the Habsburg crest above it. Let's turn around. I think that's the Habsburg crest. It's time to be corrected. And the walls. So Porta Nova was built in the 15th century. So original Venetian. Of course the crest was put on later. We'll now have a look at the war memorials. Now, as I said before, this was part of Austria until the First World War. So, young men from here would have had to go into the Austrian army. Now, I know of one unit that was recruited in this area and then was sent to fight in Galicia. It took part in operations around Lwów, which was then called Lemberg, and they took casualties of 50%. There were of course some people like Antonio, whom we saw a little earlier, who decided that he wasn't going to fight for Austria, he'd rather fight for Italy, and he went off and fought for Italy. And what we have here on the right, and straight ahead, we can see the Italian War Memorial, and on the right we can see the Austrian. See the difference inside? Now, of course, when we look here, we've got the Second World War as well, and as well as the First. So we've got up there 5 names from the First World War fighting for Italy. Amongst them is Antonio Bergamas, and here let's have a look at the Austrian War Memorial, which is considerably larger, and this is obviously much more recent. There you go, 27th of May 2001, and there we see many more names. So how were these people treated in New Italy? I'm unable to say, but I did meet a lady last week whose grandfather fought for Austria, and he was from 1899 he was born, so he'd have come into the army in 1917. And he was from Duino, which isn't all that far from here, and he fought on the Isonzo front. So it was here until October 1917, and according to her, the Italians used, because they could speak to each other, and they would even communicate and meet each other. I'm not terribly certain how they managed to do that in the circumstances, but she said that he warned them not to attack because they had machine guns. And there you have the order of the day on the 4th of November 1918, when Armando Diaz, who was in charge of the Italian army, says that it's all over. So now we walk around the piazza Italia. Now, one thing which really stands out for me here are the trees. I'm unable to say what type of trees they are. I don't know anything about trees, but here, this one above all, or two I should say, which I think are quite magnificent. And now I'm back to where I was twice before. Having gone right round the town and through the centre a couple of times as well. And tomorrow I'm going back onto the karst on my bike.